the worst mistake you can make on a ketogenic diet, the most common mistake that people make on a ketogenic diet, might not be what you think. The most common mistake that people make on keto is under-eating on the most important macronutrient to consume, regardless of what type of macro spread you're using. Regardless of what type of diet you're on, the most important macro to eat is going to be protein. Under-eating on a ketogenic diet, under-eating on protein on a ketogenic diet, is the most common mistake I see people making, especially ladies. There's a lot of information out there, a lot of conflicting, confusing information out there. Loads of Facebook groups giving out shitty information. The keto cops are all over these groups telling you this isn't keto, that's not keto. There's not enough butter in your coffee. One of the most common things that this confusion is leading to is the under-eating of protein. People are afraid of the gluconeogenesis monster. Gluconeogenesis is not the enemy of ketosis. In fact, gluconeogenesis is required for ketosis. You need your body to be able to effectively and efficiently engage in the process of gluconeogenesis, which is the generation of glucose from certain amino acids and from the backbone of fatty acids. Now, in the absence of carbohydrate, the body goes into a state called ketosis. Ketosis has historically been achieved through fasting, starvation. Long periods of deprivation of all nutrients, of all foods, of all macros will result in ketosis. Now, if you restrict carbohydrate only, you'll also get into ketosis. What happens in this process is that there are certain parts of the body, or parts of the brain, there are certain cells that require glucose. Your body can make glucose from both the backbone of fatty acids, which a lot of these people who are trying to stoke fear about gluconeogenesis don't mention. Your body can make glucose from the glycerol backbone of fatty acids and from certain amino acids. It needs to do this because certain cells in the body require glucose. If you couldn't do this, you would need a constant IV drip of glucose coming into your body at all times. You wouldn't be able to go long periods of time without food. Gluconeogenesis is the friend of ketosis. Gluconeogenesis is required for a ketogenic diet. It's not something to fear. People have been afraid of protein since we started talking about a ketogenic diet years ago. A large majority of the clients that come to us who are having problems with fat loss, who are having problems with getting into a good groove on their diet, who are not getting the satiety that they want, the satiety that comes with ketosis that actually makes it easy to eat less and burn more body fat. A majority of these people are under-eating on protein. They're afraid of it. They think it's going to turn to chocolate cake in their stomach. But this is just not true. Now, when we're looking at protein, a lot of people are afraid of it because they hear it makes your insulin go up. And this is a half-truth. The insulin to glucagon ratio is what we want to focus on. Insulin and glucagon are kind of like a seesaw. These are two hormones that work on energy storage or energy liberation in the body. Insulin being an anabolic hormone, storing nutrients, storing glucose, pushing glucose, shuttling it into the cells. Glucagon being a liberating hormone that liberates energy, releases energy, and helps you to burn fat. Now, in different contexts of different macronutrient spreads, like a standard American diet versus a low-carb diet, you're going to get a different insulin to glucagon ratio response from a meal. So if you're fasted and you have a meal in a standard American diet that's going to contain a lot of carbohydrate, you're going to see insulin shoot up dramatically. Glucagon is not going to rise. Glucagon actually helps your body to engage in gluconeogenesis, to engage in lipolysis, and to burn body fat. Now, on a low carbohydrate diet or when you're fasting, the insulin to glucagon ratio is very low. So a meal on a standard American diet that's high in carbohydrate is going to shoot up your insulin And glucagon's going to move up just a little bit, so that ratio is going to be very high of insulin to glucagon on a low carbohydrate diet. The insulin response to a meal of protein is very little, and the glucagon goes very high. Now, this does temporarily raise blood glucose. It does temporarily lower ketone production, but in the long term, you're looking at more ketone production with higher glucagon levels. You're looking at the liberation of body fat, the ability for your body to use fat as a fuel. So glucagon is what we should be looking at in relation to insulin, rather than just focusing on, oh, protein raises insulin. So when you're looking at the insulinogenic effect of protein and of different types of proteins, you're not getting the whole picture, because we've got to consider glucagon. Anybody who wants more information on this, you should check out Dr. Benjamin Bickman's work. He did a presentation, I think it was at like Low Carb Breckenridge. The insulin glucagon ratio basically gives a 1-hour presentation breaking down in great detail, much more eloquently than I'm capable of, all the information I just presented you on glucagon and insulin ratios in the context of a ketogenic diet. He's a doctor who noticed the same thing we've noticed here, is that when people are trying to lose body fat, a lot of times they're under eating on protein. Protein brings satiety like no other macro does. Protein always comes coupled with fat in nature, right? That's why we are always representing a high-fat ketogenic diet that's based around animal foods, animal proteins and fats. Not protein powder, not pea protein powder. Animal-based proteins are always going to come coupled with fats, especially if you're getting it from beef, from fatty fish. Now, you're going to be getting a significant amount of fat-soluble vitamins. And these foods are much more nourishing than these other processed junk foods that a lot of people are eating. So don't focus on whey protein powder. Eat the steaks. If you eat the steak, you're not going to want the cake. Protein brings satiety like no other macronutrient. If we don't get enough protein, we won't be satiated. We will be losing lean muscle mass. I see loads of people, I see clients who come to me on a ketogenic diet. They're trying to get their health back. They're trying to get their metabolic flexibility back. And they're losing hair. They're getting alopecia. They're losing muscle mass. They feel weak. They feel tired. I ask, how much protein are you eating? Well, they say, oh, of course, I'm limiting my protein. I'm only eating 40 or 50 grams a day. All right, grown men eating 40, 50 grams. Grown women with stressful lives, with children, eating 50 grams of protein a day, that is not enough. So get enough protein and your hunger will go down. Stop focusing on just eating a bunch of fat, throwing butter in your coffee, eating as much fat as you can. Doesn't get you into ketosis. Restricting carbohydrates is what brings us into a ketogenic state. Ketosis isn't achieved through the elevation of dietary fatty acids, it's achieved through the restriction of carbohydrate. Now that ketogenic state, if done properly with sufficient protein, will result in low hunger, stable blood glucose, the preservation or the gain of lean muscle mass, and many neurological benefits. I mean, a lot of people are doing a ketogenic diet to try to get benefits in cognition, in brain function. A lot of people are dealing with traumatic brain injury, former athletes using keto to deal with the symptoms of traumatic brain injury, and they're doing quite well. Getting sufficient protein is crucial, and I can't drive the point home hard enough. So focus on nutrient-dense, unrefined, whole foods keto meals based around animal proteins and fats. Veggies are optional. Some people love vegetables and do just fine with them. Some people do much better on a more carnivorous style diet. In fact, getting sufficient protein really ties in with carnivore, because a lot of people end up gravitating towards a carnivorous diet after a ketogenic diet. It doesn't give them the benefits that they were looking for. They start doing carnivore, they get sufficient protein, their hunger drops dramatically, they're not chasing ketones, they've simplified the rule structure, and they end up breaking through these plateaus and doing very well. So keto is not this magical state that automatically makes you burn body fat. Eating a bunch of dietary fat will block our ability to burn body fat. Under-eating protein will make it to where we are not satiated and able to tap into that body fat. So what is enough protein? We've got to define these terms, right? All these gurus telling you, don't eat too much protein, it's going to turn to glucose in the body. These people, first of all, don't understand the glucagon-insulin ratio. They've got it oversimplified in their mind. They're repeating old information. And they're omitting the fact that dietary fat can also be turned into glucose, the glycerol backbone of fatty acids. And they're not even defining what sufficient protein is. So sufficient protein, the easiest rule to throw out there for most people is about 0.8 grams per pound of your lean body mass, or 0.8 grams per pound of your desired lean body mass if you've got like 100 pounds plus to lose. Sometimes just saying 0.8 grams per pound of your desired body weight is a good way to go. Now, is that way too much? Absolutely not. Can you do with less? Most people probably could. But that's a good, simple rule to follow. And if you try to hit that protein level, you're going to drop your hunger levels. You're going to get your glucagon-insulin ratio right. You're going to become more insulin sensitive. And you're going to burn body fat. Because when you get enough protein, you will stop desiring the other macros. There's something else to look into called the protein leverage hypothesis, which holds that if you get enough protein, you're going to stop eating the fat and the carbs. All right, so if you calorie restrict people for a long time, you give them a buffet. Once they hit their optimal protein intake, your body stops desiring the other macros. You stop eating the other foods. So getting enough protein is an amazing thing that you can leverage in order to drop your hunger levels and thus burn body fat. If you're trying to burn body fat, which most people using a ketogenic diet are, get enough protein. And even if you're not trying to burn body fat, if you're trying to maintain your weight, if you're trying to use a ketogenic diet for metabolic health purposes, for treating traumatic brain injury, for improving cognition, for reducing inflammation, and for having stable energy throughout the day without having to constantly feed on carbohydrate, you still have to get enough protein. So stop restricting the protein. The keto repeatos have got you confused and confounded. Get off the damn Facebook groups and eat a whole, unrefined, nutrient-dense food diet based around animal foods, animal proteins, and fats. And enjoy it. Eat the steaks, and you're not going to be so hungry for the cakes. If you're looking at protein and afraid of it, you've got it wrong. So look deeper into it, question what you're told, and quit shopping around for confusion on the internet. Pick a plan and stick with it. You want to learn how to make nutrient-dense, unrefined, whole foods-based keto meals, check out my wife's cookbook, the Ketogenic Edge Cookbook. There's a link down in the description below. It's finally available in print, all based on whole, unrefined foods. They actually got a whole section showing you how to make organ meats in the book as well. If you're interested in private coaching consultations, we still do that, but we've been doing less of it because we've been doing our Keto and Carnivore Collective every month. So the next Keto and Carnivore Collective, which is our group coaching, where we do 2 live interactive voice chats per week. One of those is a lesson. We're able to transmit a lot of knowledge to you during this 4-week coaching period, and we do a live Q&A each week as well. Of course, we do Q&A after the lessons, and you've got full access to your coaches. We use a live Discord server where we're able to handle more people, and you have a community-based support structure that makes it much more fun and enjoyable. So we work on not just diet, we work on circadian rhythm, on optimizing light exposure, on reducing inflammatory responses in the body through optimizing the circadian rhythm, reducing hunger through the optimization of meal timing. Work on all these things. We go beyond just diet. Because remember, you're way more than what you eat. So check out the Keto and Carnivore Collective if you're interested in coaching. The next one is December 9th, and I think that goes through January 6th. So the December 9th session, that is open for enrollment now. You've got about a week and a half to enroll in that, and that's going to be really fun. So yeah, keep it simple. Quit listening to the confusing nonsense. Quit shopping for confusion in Facebook groups. Get enough protein. Keep those carbs low. And the fat you burn can come from your body or from the plate. How much fat you burn from your body is determined by how much fat you put on your plate. So you can find more at primaledgehealth.com. Get off the computer. Kill your Facebook account. Get off the TV. Get out in the real world and live.